Hi everyone, I'm Gerald Ferreira. I'm from a virtual reality company. So we basically do virtual reality and augmented reality. I started in the industry in about 1998. So what we did is basically, I'm coming from a small town, Northwest Province, Klerksdorp, and I got a website that I needed to do for City Council, and they wanted to market South Africa or the city of Klerksdorp to the world. So one of my specialities is actually search engine optimization, and when we launched this website back in 1998, it suddenly became one of the top websites in the world for a city, and we started getting insane amount of traffic and stuff like that. So then I thought, well, let me do something that I can take the city to the rest of the world. And then I started with panorama photography, went out to the streets like Google Street View is doing now, took a DSLR, walked in the streets, and just take photographs. So it was like insane amount of photographs, put it up, and that's where it started. What's significant about it is that in, I think it was 2006 or 7, that is when Google started doing it. So, yeah, I like to think that our company is actually on the cutting edge of virtual reality, not just in South Africa, but worldwide, basically. So, what I want to ask you guys, who have done virtual reality before? Okay. So, there's basically two types of virtual reality. The one type is what we call 3D OF. That is basically where you stand and you are a spectator in VR. So you can look around you, but you cannot really move into that environment. Then we've got 60 OF virtual reality, and that virtual reality is what I think is going to change the world forever. The way we interact with technology, all that sort of stuff. So basically in 60 OF, you can walk in a room like this, you can go to that cup, pick it up, look at it from all sizes, put it down, and stuff like that. So, who of you have experienced 60 OF VR? Experience? The high VR, where you can move around and touch stuff.
Experience.
With the goggles. Yes.
So is that the one where you've got a controller and you can walk around?
Yes. Okay, so I've brought a device, and I actually want someone to test it that hasn't tried high VR before. So is there anyone that wants to?
Very hot.
That's the test.
Cool.
That's the model.
So let's do that.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to do a demo.
Can I ask maybe a weird one? And I'm trying, but what's the difference between virtual and augmented?
So virtual reality is where you are placed inside the environment. So what you see is digitally created, so it's all around you. Augmented reality is where you're still in the real world, you use a device, you look at something, and then digital content is displayed into that. Okay, cool. So I'm going to show you this device. So it's brand new. But this device was launched on the 21st of May this year. This device is basically changing everything for us in the virtual reality industry. Because previously, when you wanted to do high-end virtual reality, you had to have a computer. And it was tethered to the tethered to the computer. So basically that made it difficult to take it anywhere. So now, let's say for this thing, I had to come up and set up an hour before, put up my base stations, the computer, the headset, and all that kind of things. Now I can basically just set it up very quickly. Okay, so the previous headset, which now I'll just wait for it to start off.
Are you able to give us a use case before you actually execute? What are we anticipating?
Sorry.
Like a use case, you making him a guinea pig to participate. What is the, let's say, functional process? What are you?
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show the power of virtual reality. So the easiest way to show it is to put someone into it. The hardest thing to do is to sell it in a 3D environment. So what's going to happen is that you will see the person would believe what you see. And that is done in three minutes.
Yes.
So, the other thing about virtual reality is that some people say the graphics are not up to standard yet, but it depends on how well you optimize. So basically, if you spend an hour in VR, doesn't matter what the graphics looks like, you start believing what you see. So yeah, so this is an old device. You can see it's got a cable and it needs to go to PC and stuff like that. Nonetheless, a great device.
Sorry, are there any side effects after you come?
So let me answer you with a restriction that's currently on VR. So basically what they say is VR is not good for persons under 13 years old. But there's no statistics to back it. So they just basically decided we're going to say that VR is not good for anyone younger than 30. So I think it will still come out. Like most of us, our mom said to us, don't sit that close to your TV screen. And now we're putting it on our heads, yes. So, but this is also, this is one of the first generations of commercially affordable VR devices. So previously, a high-end VR system would have cost $1 million, $2 million, $3 million per year. So this device is like $1.5 million.
And that's what?
Right. So if you buy it in the US, so I can pick up this stuff before I want to. So what changed with this device is you now have a video interface. So you can see through the glasses and see reality. Okay?
So you're on the augmented version of where we are, and you're adding rendered
Basically,
versions for your layers.
yes. So now I need to define a safe area to play. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm just going to set it up. Okay? So you have to define where's the floor that I've done. Okay? So I can see the chairs here. I'm walking it this way, that way, that way. So now I've created a safe area to play. Okay. So once I have that safe area, then my camera gets switched off, and I'm now basically in a virtual reality environment. Okay, so use the.
So side is more important.
Let's stand here. Just adjust it for me so that you can see clearly. Yeah, okay, you're clear now. And I'm just going to apply it. Okay, so I want you to tell everyone what you are seeing.
I'm seeing a car over there, wherever you are. It's actually standing on the street. This looks like Jordan. No, it's not. And I can see the street lights, the birds flying, big buildings. And I'm next to Richie's plane experience. Oh, I actually came out of a lift. Let's go back in the lift.
So what you can do on the hardware side, you see a button that says plug.
A button, yeah.
Just use your hand, just touch it.
I can see a control.
Just go a little closer.
Yeah.
Okay, what's happening now?
And I think the lift is moving up. Yeah. Walk the plank. And I've got the open, it says plank only.
So plank.
Oh! That's the planking. It's like on top of this tall building. So
We don't have to.
if I step this side, I'm
Jump.
And there's a plank. But I can't see my feet, that's why I can't walk on.
So I want you to take at least 2 steps out onto the plank.
Onto the plank, okay? At least I remember that I'm still on the floor, so so I don't have to walk back down.
Look down.
Okay, just tell us again what you are seeing.
Looks like some virtual cage of some sort.
Okay, just take 1 step back.
Okay.
Is the cage still there?
No, it's not there.
Okay, so what happened is the area where I'm walking, so I actually walked out of that area, and then there's a warning system that tells you you can't go further.
Yeah.
So if you do go further, what's nice about this system, then the camera switches on, so then you'll see the reality again.
Oh,
Okay, so I want you to turn to your left hand side.
okay. Still on the plank.
Yes. Just see how
Like motions, everything else, it's
Okay.
just there.
And now I want you to move towards me. Just take 1 step.
Towards the sound.
Just take 1 step towards
One
me.
step towards the left, so I must jump. Okay, let me jump
Whoa.
right down. Crashed, eh?
Yes.
Did you bungee?
So what is insane about that is that we keep him for 3 minutes, basically. We put him in an environment. Immediately his brain told him that it's real. So when he walked on the plank, although he knows it's in this room, he's feeling that the plank is there and he's experiencing it. So then, yeah. So what's nice about this 60RF virtual reality environments is that we create them on gaming engine software. So by doing that, we have stuff like gravity. So when he was on the plank and he walked off the plank, he actually fell down. So, yeah. So basically, just to bring it back to business case, for instance, so architect can go and he can get the layout of a land. Then we can remake it, and then we can take little balls, throw it into the terrain, and we will see how water flows on that terrain. So that's just the physics part. So with the design part, the architect can go into the house, walk through it, or the building, or whatever, and explore it as if they are here. So I just want to show you what that guy experienced. So this is basically
I was thinking right there.
okay, so while we're waiting for it to load, so I understand you guys are basically from the banks. Standard Bank,
Yeah, every planet.
Nedbank,
All banks are in.
Absol Bank.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool, so I'll continue banks now.
I think when I experienced, I think one of the, like you were saying in architecture was it it's a case of, okay, this is how your house is going to look like. No, the walls are too close, let's make them broader. And I think that was the first time I really experienced it and saw the good use for it in terms of business cases.
So I like that you brought it back to that for housing. I think it's an easy one to measure yourself in an environment of a prospective house that you buy. Look at, you mentioned cost. I'm talking very from between novices and what really actually happens. So to be able to scale, capture a market, how many houses do we have to sell?
So There's different sort of technologies. So one of the technologies that's available to scan a house, for instance, is a 3D scanner. So you go, if I take you to a house, it takes panorama images, but it not only takes photos, it actually scans the house. So by scanning, you can measure stuff. So you can take a measurement of that afterwards in that environment. So that solutions are actually very cheap now. So it's like 1,500 Rand to go out and scan a house, for instance. So I am shocked that not as much real estate agents are using it. And there's like a big resistance from the real estate agents. So they have a budget of like 900 Rand, from which they want something like this, which is quite very high tech. But it's doable, but yeah, they want to pay
Yeah,
900.
because rate of return.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically what that guy was seeing. And then just to go back to the reason why I asked you from which banks you are, we have actually done a lot of stuff for the banks already. So we've created a game for Standard Bank, we've created a game for Absa Bank, then for Nedbank we created the Nedbank Golf Challenge. So I don't know if you know the Gary Player Club house at Sun City. So basically what we did there, we went to remodel that, the clubhouse, and then basically we got Gary Player, which is awesome, to do the voiceover of that experience. So in the experience, you basically start in the golf club, and then you can go to the trophy, and you can actually pick up the trophy and see all the names of the people that won the event. Then you can put it down, and then there's a Hall of Fame. So then you can move into the Hall of Fame, and in the actual Hall of Fame, there's photos of every year's winner. So you can basically look at the photo, click on the photo, and then it shows a video that we got from Super Sport that basically shows 30 seconds highlight clip of that player from that time. So the golf people just love it. Then from there you can go back to table, and on the table, when you look at the table, basically in augmented reality, in VR, then the golf course pops up, and you can select the hole that you want to look at. You click on it, and then you basically see a flyover video of that golf course and stats about that specific hole. And then you can go out of there, and then there's another point of interest. So you go there, and then you basically see a hologram of a Gary Player, and someone else tells you how great Gary Player was as a golfer.
How have you been faring? I think the hospitality industry, we should have fun. I mean, if you listen, you check Trivago, maybe, as an example. If I'm going to do a booking for a hotel and I want to have an immersive experience, all those feel like I'm in Capri or whatever it is, right? Yeah. And that's the thing that's going to convert a browser to an actual customer.
So we are very active in the tourism industry. So just things that we've done there. We are doing the virtual reality activations for KwaZulu-Natal. I don't know if any one of you have seen them. So that is quite cool. So what we did is we created a video of a person surfing and a person zip lining, and the other one is Zulu dancing. So basically what is, basically we go out to events. So we've been to Botswana, we've been to Mozambique, we've been to places, Bloemfontein, all over the show. So then we set up a physical prop. So we've got a surfboard that's on springs, person stands on the surfboard, and then they're actually surfing. So in many of these cases, people haven't even been to the ocean. So now that we give them the opportunity to do surfing, learn about what KwaZulu-Natal has to offer, and they have this awesome, almost real experience while they're doing that.
I'm thinking Tulima Dons and sorry to cut you. Tuli did the Kilimanjaro now, right? Could I have such kind of an experience?
So
I don't know how you're going to get everything else with it. All the other natural become, they come like, you were scared, right? Walking here. So the roaches and all of that, but if I'm climbing Kilimanjaro, how do you get
So VR is changing everything. So there's already, one of the first experience ever created was not Kilimanjaro, but Everest. So there's an experience where you can go in virtual reality, 60 OF, and walk Everest in a safe environment.
Have they done
So-
spacewalk?
Sorry?
Spacewalking.
There's spacewalking. So what's happened with NASA having gone to the moon, now I think it's 50 years. So now there's a focus on that. So there's been a lot of developers that have developed solutions where you can do spacewalking, you can visit the moon, you can do all that sort of stuff. So, and the thing is, you can do it like this. So I think what you mentioned in the previous, when the previous speaker was talking about unemployment, I think, and education, I think that's where a big part of virtual reality is. So you want to create a solution where you educate people. So, let me just grab this one. So what we did, I think 2 years ago, in the education space, we created a solution where a child had to do an experiment. So the experiment was copper sulfate and iron, and how it colors and stuff like that. So the kid, there's a teacher in front of the kid, so she tells him what to do. So the kid has to take the beaker, put it in front of him. Then he has to take the water bottle, unscrew the cap, put it down, take the water bottle, throw it in, and he does it in 3D, and he does it interactive. So we were at AfricaCom to showcase that to some journalists, and then we also invited kids to come and participate in this experiment. So what is flipping interesting is that everyone that did it, afterwards they had to do it in real life. And without fail, before knowing what they had to do, they could learn it in VR, and then they went to do it in real life. So on the education side, basically, let's say you want to learn about NASA, but you're in South Africa. It's almost impossible to have a NASA real-life experience if you're from here. So NASA could potentially create the NASA environment, and a person can go in there and have a look at it, explore it, look through a telescope, walk through the space shuttle, and all that stuff. And like you said, we can even go to the moon. So, and that happens like this. So we can have an hour where we have someone in a NASA class. Next moment, we teach them about farming, for instance. So, at the place, in the space, and interactive in 3D. So, another use of virtual reality which people are not thinking about is basically in the robotics industry. So it's all good and well that we have AI, but AI is something hard to create. We have to find patterns, we have to machine learn, all that sort of stuff. So there's guys in Japan that's busy developing robots that gets controlled by virtual reality. So in virtual reality is where your brains are. So it's a real person that can think, that can operate the robot remotely through virtual reality. So that's just one example.
So it's not an avatar, you actually decal from the avatar and controlling that from a different.
Yes, so you can control it. They're working on a haptic suit. It's a company called Tesla Suits. So this haptic suit basically tracks your whole body. So then they're working on gloves. So now you can almost feel a flower with the touch of that. So with 5G coming soon, it's not going to be a problem to control something remotely without interruptions. So what I always say, when you think of VR, think of it 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. In 50 years, people will not want to live in reality. They will want to live in virtual reality all the time. So if we take poverty, for instance, so I'm staying in a small apartment, I've got a small TV, and I've got an old cell phone, and I've got maybe some other devices and stuff. So as this becomes more real, you can have a TV in VR, and you can have it this size, that size, the whole room size. If you're not happy with it, you can have 20 TVs that you can watch in virtual reality. So virtual reality is going to replace devices, physical devices. So if you can work with the latest laptop in virtual reality, you won't need this physical device anymore. You won't need a TV. A smartphone will become a heads-up display, or it can still be a phone. So if you've got a Samsung 10, don't like it, you throw it away, you get an Apple, and you use that in virtual reality. So undoubtedly, in my opinion, this technology is going to change everything for us. Another, just a business example. So let's say Transnet wants to build a control center where they monitor the whole of Durban. So they have to go and build a physical center, employ people there, get the equipment, get the TV screens, get the computer systems and all that stuff to put the physical location there. And then that physical location is just there. So now, with virtual reality, they can implement that control center in a virtual world, so you can still get your camera feeds, and then if you want it big, you just touch it, oops, it's big. If you want it small, you just make it smaller. Now, someone in Britain can basically come in and view the control center as if he was there. So that's one example. Then people also think, because some people say that we are already in virtual reality. So that's a bit different discussion. But if you look at the Bible, it says we've got souls. And we come down and then your soul goes somewhere else. But I won't get into detail about that too much. But yeah, so in my opinion, like I said, virtual reality is going to change everything. And then what you mentioned previously is on your augmented reality side. So at the moment, some people are distinguishing between virtual reality and augmented reality. But it's actually sort of the same thing. When you program it for it, it's more or less the same. So the ultimate device would be where you can switch to virtual reality and then back to reality. So, and with the augmented reality overview. So just as an example, also from the previous speaker, we were speaking about the car park scenario, where a camera needs to recognize people, see if they're doing stuff wrong and whatever. So when we will happen in 5 years time or 10 years time, everyone is going to walk with some sort of camera that's on their face, that's almost continuously on. So with augmented reality, you can walk in a conference center like this. Let's say we all gave permission and we all registered to be trackable for this conference. Then I can merely look at you and then info pops up, and whatever you want to disclose to me, I can see it. So I can see you're working at Standard Bank or Absol or wherever, and you are interested in talking about machine learning. So then just by looking at different people, I can sort of get their business card. So, or I can go out and I can see there's something wrong with my car, for instance. What is that red button that's coming up on the dashboard? So without going to the manual, it gets recognized, it tells me this is the problem. If I'm driving, I don't need to have my smartphone there or there for a GPS. The GPS will be in front of me. So you can still see reality, but you see the direction where you are going and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what's virtual reality and augmented reality. Any questions?
This is a warped question. Has anyone studied what the brain does when you're just wondering how you're... Sorry, I know it's a warped question.
So virtual reality is not a new thing. So virtual reality has been around from I think 1930 already. We created manual devices that move photos and stuff like that. So in most cases, virtual reality failed to come to the industry because of the lack of technology and all that sort of stuff. But it's been actively used in military training of pilots and that sort of stuff. So officially, I think from what I've seen, there's not been research done that proves that virtual reality can be harmful to you.
No, I'm not thinking harmful, I'm actually thinking the opposite. If you take a child who's doing rehab or something like that, and make it a fun experience for them, I'm just wondering how the brain will react, or if it will react quicker, when you have to retrain the brain type of thing.
So yes, there's a company in New Zealand, it's called Staples VR. So they are actively using it in hospitals to provide children with some rehabilitation programs. So one simple thing is when a kid goes into a hospital for operation, he typically doesn't know what's going to happen to him. So through a VR experience, they make him familiar with how operation works and all that stuff, and they combine fun activities and stuff like that. So in my opinion, yes, I think there's been studies done with people that's got Down syndrome, I think. So some kids that's got Down syndrome react much better in virtual reality than what they do in real life, and they can also interact with stuff and so on. So yes, hope that answers.
So there's actually been a study done by a doctor in human behavioral, I think it's called Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he actually tracked the brain, and it's his specialty, so he studies the brain. And then they were able to prove that when someone was thinking of even if you're thinking of the past, so if maybe you had a traumatic experience and you start rethinking that, your brain has actually no way of telling whether that is reality or not. So they use that in a positive way, where you imagined yourself somewhere else, where you're happy on the patient, and it worked. So it's like amazing.
So I asked this question a couple of years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. If you take a child and you put him in a virtual reality experience, and so let's say a plane crash. So it's almost as small to remember that it was a headset that was put on his head, and then you play that scenario to him. Will he be always scared of flying? Will he sometime, maybe when he's 18 or 20 years, and you ask him about it, will he remember that it was virtual reality, or will he remember it as a real experience?
The brain can't distinguish between imagination and real experience. So your memory is all, your memory is not fixed. So whatever you remember is your reality, what had happened to you in the past. So I can't imagine that the brain will act different between experiences and virtual reality experiences. So it will react as if that was flashed.
Yeah.
Isn't that the classic case of PTSD, right? The thing happened then, but every time you replay it in the mind, you still have the same emotions and impact.
Yeah, and it will release the hormones, the dopamine, the adrenaline, or whatever the case may be, as if you are experiencing whatever it was. Like Tabor's body, I'm sure, had a overload.
So I'm developing this stuff. So when I look at these environments, I can sort of see the modeling and all that stuff. And then I'm going to make 2 points. So when I drive in reality, I sometimes look at a building, because I'm a lot in virtual reality. Sometimes look at a building and I think to myself, could this have been created in virtual reality? Why did someone decide to put a stop street here? Stuff like that. So it's sort of, you start to question things in real life if you are a lot in virtual reality. And then I've got a bad habit, I don't know what's the English word for it, but when I climb stairs, then my feet sometimes do this. And then I get that virtual reality feeling, and my mind has to think, am I in reality or virtual reality? Which is scary. So we are at the beginning of this technology, and then I don't know if you've seen Elon Musk, what he's doing with the brain. So there's like, we've also, I'm talking a lot about New Zealand, but we went there and we discovered that they were one of the leading countries in the world in the virtual reality space. So there's like stuff like, I don't know if you've heard about Magic Leap. Magic Leap is augmented reality glasses. They got like I think 2.5 billion US dollar funding before they even started. But in any case, this is a New Zealand company. And yeah, so they are on the board of these type of technologies. What would I want to say now?
What do you think?
But sorry, let me just get to that point. So we met some people there that was before this thing about Elon Musk was introduced. They are working on brain technologies and stuff, and so they can already put some sensors on your head, and they will know if you think yes or no or certain things. So when that stuff becomes part of our brains or a device that we put on, it's going to make the headset much more, end of the day it might become contact lenses, and just by thinking we are reacting to stuff in virtual reality.
What do you think Google goggles, or whatever, the first things that they had, the iron, where did they get it wrong? Because they were 80, I'm not sure how they applied that, but they were actually in the market, knew the industry, so maybe you have some insights, right?
So, surprisingly, I think Google is the biggest virtual reality company in the world. If you just look at Google Street View. So, with Google Street View, in the beginning we thought they're just driving and they're just taking photos. They were not just driving and taking photos. There's scanners from that system as well. So while they're driving, they're measuring the whole world.
You're mapping and all
yes.
that.
With their satellite services, they are measuring buildings and stuff like that. So I don't know if you've looked at Google Earth recently. Most of the buildings there is already 3D models. So if you put Google Earth in virtual reality, there's an application for it. You can literally go to here, outside, see the building in 3D, fly around it, move around it, and then with Street View, you grab that thing, pull it to your face, and then you get the view of the car. Or other people, which we are part of as well, is Google Street View Trusted Photographer. We can create our own content, publish it directly into Google system. So what Google did, I think their device, looking back at it, they should maybe have not released it. So a lot of people think that is virtual reality. You're standing there and you can look around. So, but at the same time, they brought out a very affordable device for anyone to experience that. So what you just said, isn't that Google excited from a technology perspective to prove the concept that we can render environments, but not ready? No, they are heavily invested in VR. Heavily, more than I think anyone outside the industry realizes, because they've mapped the world in 3D already. So they already have the world in 3D.
That's the B side.
So here's the Google device. So what they made is that they made it open source. So basically anyone can take the plans from them and recreate it like that. But I think, like I said, it looks like from the side that Google didn't do the right thing by launching that, but it sort of opened the industry. And they're holding their ace. But they actually,
I mean, the enablers are the data, right? The reference data or frameworks, whatever else it is. So an ecosystem of things to actually use. The tech on its own, it's like a game.
So if you talk data, like the previous speaker with chatbots, that's something that can go into VR already. If you're talking data, so you can track eye movement inside VR. So you can actually, with your data, figure out what people are looking at, because they are in your controlled environment. They are in your data. So when they are in your data, You can track everything that they do. So, I'm not even going in that side, but psychology, all that stuff. So you can see with the technology that's available now, there's like a lion running towards this person. Does he look at the lion? Does he look away? Is he scared? Is he not scared? So on the data side as well, so let's say the fear of heights, for instance. Do you know what's the test for fear of heights? Anyone? What does doctors do? So you want to work at Sasol, part of your job description is you have to get onto those eye things. How do they test you to determine if you have a fear of heights?
AR, VR. Simulation, right?
So at the moment, the doctor asks you, are you afraid of heights? And then people say, no. And then when they get up there, they are scared of heights. So like everyone reacts to that almost the same. But yeah, so it's just so amazing how much stuff you can do with your tracking, your data, and all that stuff. So yeah.
So the main thing is you must still be able to build those models, right? Let's say if I want to bring this into the financial services, I don't remember if I've seen this before, where you're able to showcase how your application works. Or like, yeah, it will be a case of you must still build that.
Yes. So I'm going to try and answer it quickly.
Okay.
So we created a bank for Standard Bank. So we went to one of their existing banks, we recreated the bank in virtual reality. Okay. But they wanted to close banks. So part of the system was to move people to smartphone applications. So inside the bank you could walk around, pick up stuff, throw a monitor and do silly stuff that you can't do in a real bank. But there was no people. So it got pretty much boring very quickly. Then we created 3 games there. So one of the games was you go and bake a cake. So what does that have to do with banking? So go and touch the poster, go into a kitchen, then you get instructions. Turn around, put on the oven, do this, do this, do this. Halfway through, the electricity cuts. What do? Go back to the boring bank, or take your smartphone, open it up. So you have your smartphone in your hand. Open the Standard Bank app and buy electricity on there. So you can create. I will almost say what's in the real world. Devices, that sort of stuff. You can simulate in VR. So yes.
Cool. I think that was very informative. There's a lot of things that we need to do, and yesterday we were talking about culture and strategy, who eats who for breakfast. There's a lot of technologies. I think is knowing who you are as a business, where you are, and what is actually relevant to you. Adopting new technologies doesn't mean you're going to win, right? I was talking again about benchmarking. Don't look at your competitors on how they did it. That bank may have that. Does that mean actually your target market is related to that? It could be totally different. So you always have to remove gut feel, bias, unconscious bias, and actually be insight-driven, fact-based.
Actually, disagree with you that you express your gut feel. Because in the West, we focus a lot on the cognitive processing of our being. We suppress the emotional and the somatic side of how we function. And we don't really understand the cognitive processing of information. So the subconscious and emotional process of information is extremely valuable. But we don't understand it, so we don't want to go there. But there is a subconscious level of communication in groups and an expectation of the group, of the individual, that influences the individual. So if you suppress your gut feel, you basically suppress, I think, 80% of your decision making.
So you are in agriculture.
So that's an interesting thing. So we've just done, I don't know if you guys know Acco, the company Acco. It's one of the biggest agricultural companies in the world. So they have several companies underneath them. So it's like Fendt, Massey Ferguson, those type of things. So we created a solution for them beginning of this year, where they have a thing that's called farm in a box. So farm in a box is basically a container. Inside the container you get a tractor, you get your implements and all that stuff. You get an office, you get service parts, and also a call center, which you can call if you need assistance. Telemetry tracking, so when the tractor is out somewhere, you can track if it's working, it's standing still, and stuff like that. So they're launching this in Zambia, where they are giving it to farmers to start a small-scale farming business. So with the marketing side of that, we assisted them. So we went to Germany to the Grunewald exhibition in Messe Berlin, which is quite, it's big. It's, then if you know Nasrec, it's probably 30 times the size of Nasrec. So they were just farmers, all this sort of stuff. So we basically took the whole setup there in a game experience. So people were standing there, a big helicopter came down with the container, dropped it in front of them, and the tractor came out, the implements came out, explaining the whole concept to people as if they were standing in Zambia in front of a farm. And then they could also interact with this sort of stuff. So yeah, that's on the marketing side, one example. Then we recently did another company, Tro Nutrition. I don't know if you guys know Tro Nutrition. So it's a company, one of the biggest companies that manufacture or pack vitamins for animals. So it's for animals. So they've got factories all around the world. They've recently been bought over by Tro Nutrition. I think it was before that it was a Vent, and we actually activated here in Empress Palace. So they wanted to show farmers what their capabilities is, how safe their factories is. There's 2 factories, there's no cross-contamination and all that sort of stuff. So we created a video for them using 360 video that took people while they were here through a tour of their factory. Okay? Then we modeled the factory in a 3D environment. So we physically went with the camera, scanned the whole thing. So that the whole building is now mapped. They can put someone in the glasses and they can guide them where they can go and look through this factory. And then lastly, we created a high-end virtual reality experience for them. So now you are in the factory, you can walk around in the factory and pick up stuff, and you can pull real imagery from the factory to your face, and then you can see what it looks in reality. But it's very close to what any case looks like. So the idea for them was to use it basically at this venue, at this event, for a one-day event. And then the side effect now is they use it now on a daily basis with their sales staff that goes out to farmers remotely. They give the farmer this device, he puts it on, you see exactly what they're selling, why they're selling it. They've got the infrastructure, so they immediately prove to the client they are who they say they are. And then probably the farmer is so overwhelmed with the technology that he will place an order.
Gerald, thanks. In terms of fair usage policy and respect for individuals, I'd like to let the people use they can have their editors. 1 hour. Thank you very much. Lunch is presenting in an hour, we make it too.